Welcome to the Paradise Paradox. My name's Kurt Robinson.
And my name is Aaron Battle.
So today we're talking about water. We're talking about what happens if a city runs out of water or has a shortage of water for a few days. How long will it take for a zombie apocalypse to happen? And fluoride in the water, is it good? Is it bad? Who knows? And can you get brain-eating amoebas from using water?
What the frack is that all about? We also touch on fracking. We talk about what happens when you have no water to your house, what I experienced, can't flush your toilet, can't do your dishes, can't wash your clothes. And that's not to mention if you don't get thirsty. So start keeping a bucket of water.
All right, let's get into it.
Press like on YouTube, press like on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and Pocket Casts. Follow us on Twitter @BattleAZ, @TroubleBubble, and show your support at donate.theparadiseparadox.com.
Welcome to the Paradise Paradox. My name is Aaron Battle.
My name's Kurt Robinson.
So what an interesting weekend.
Yeah, tell us what happened.
Well, okay, it's Guadalajara. It's Easter long weekend. Is that right? Easter weekend.
Yeah.
It's a long weekend.
Yeah.
Here in Mexico, it's like public holidays from Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday. So it's you can feel the city's gone quiet. Like everyone's going to the beach. Puerto Vallarta's only 2-3 hours drive from here. So I feel like a lot of people took advantage of the 4 days off, and of course, they've got their own promotions and that at the hotels, at the beaches nearby, and everyone's taken off. So what I've experienced is kind of like a ghost town where I live, and there's also construction going on with a new subway they're putting in. So the local authorities decided it'd be a good idea to take advantage of everyone being out of town and cutting off the water supply, so they could do amendments to pipes that may be interfering with where the new railway or the subway line is going to go. Unfortunately, I didn't know about it, so I experienced 2 days without water.
Great.
We're here in Mexico, and we did an episode a little while back on bugging out and how interesting that would be. If everything does fall over, how prepared are you? And I can tell you firsthand, I'm not ready. I wasn't ready at all. It was very interesting. I was telling Kurt that my house went from being civilized to being somewhat of what you'd see in a zombie movie after 2 years of being neglected. The sink piled up with dishes very quickly. There was no washing happening, so my pile of clothes piled up. Just the toilets were banking up. I mean, there's no water in the house for 2 whole days. So at first you don't even notice until the pump that's supposed to kick in, on a routinely basis to funnel water from the supply of the residence that I'm at to the tank on top of the roof that gives the pressure for the taps and everything, and the taps start shaking, there's nothing coming out. Then things start going into panic. Like, what happened? Where's my water? Which seems like something you prepare for. I would have thought.
Does it? It's not really quite something that most people anticipate. Well,
No, you don't anticipate no water, but you don't realize how important it is having a constant supply of water until you go 2 days without water. And it might only been a day and a half, like, the night and the day. But myself and Joanna decided, this is too much, I can't handle this. So we went to Chapala for a day just to escape it. But it made me realize that, maybe having a supply of water for emergencies, like, that I said, oh yeah, it'd be cool, complete bug out plan, 100 liters of water minimum, right? 3 months worth of food. I've got none of that. Like, just your basic essentials that you think you'd have. I'm slipping up. I'm not focusing on my plan, which is a little bit disappointing. But I'm good that I got a little scared, because now I'm back on track. Now I need to get my garrafones de agua, have everything sorted, because I mean, even just to have a supply of maybe not fresh water, but usable water, you know, to bucket
Yeah.
to bucket water to your toilet, because you know, having a smaller house, it doesn't take very long for the toilet smell to just completely take over the whole house.
Wow, that's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it's not what you expect. It's just you press the flush button and it takes care of everything. But when that goes, I mean, you know, all it takes is like 2 toilet sessions.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like you can't go in there.
Well, that's just what it was like when we're out in Puebla, in Pachuquilla, where you have, at least they did have water, like I think it was rainwater that you would pour down the toilet, but the toilet was it was half a toilet, it was all broken and stuff.
But you expected that. Like, it wasn't a surprise. I told you there's no toilet there.
I don't think you did warn me about that, actually.
Well, I did tell you we're going to.
Well, maybe
going
you did
to,
tell me there was no toilet. You didn't tell me there was no real place to have a shower.
Oh yeah. No, well, we went to the river.
Yeah.
You go for a swim.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
like-
you didn't tell me to bring swimmers either, so.
Yeah, I said, don't worry. Well, it's Pachuquilla. Like, you really can't plan for that kind of place.
You could have. You've been there. You've been there like 10 times before. You could have told me.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
okay. The point. I mean, I wanted to open this episode with, like, everyone that thinks they're bugging out a little bit, or at least aware of it, or preparation. Like, you're not. I don't think we're all really ready just yet, because I thought I was reasonably ready. I mean, being in Mexico, you don't need to be like 100% ready, because, you know, you're already semi-bugged out. But
Yeah,
I
because
mean-
we know we're always reasonably close to some sort of supply line, like the farms aren't too far away, you know, and that's indicated by the prices. Like, once I remember I was at Mercado Corona and the guy was like, "Hey, you want 4 pesos worth of serrano, like the chili?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And he gives me like a quarter kilo of serrano. Like, what am I gonna do with that? But the point is, it's reflected in the prices. It would cost the 30 cents to.
yeah, logistics of product is quite close. So there's no adding of price to that whole system. But
Yeah. So even if the price goes up 10 times, it won't be a problem, really.
well, I mean, you know, your 4 pesos of whatever you just got would have been enough to get you through the week. How much do you need?
Well, I didn't need that much. I probably use about 3 or 4 serrano in a week. So, he must have given me like 20 or 30
Have you experienced being caught without anything here in Mexico?
without chili. No, I don't think so. Apart from when we were in Pachuquilla without a bathroom. Yesterday, I went to buy drinking water, and because we ran out, and the purification plant was closed because of the holiday, and the corner store was closed, so I had to pay like two or 3 times the regular price, which is like $2.
You bought rich people water.
Yeah. I don't know why that place costs so much more. I guess it's because it's on the corner of the plaza over here in the Expiatorio. So I guess all the businesses go there to get their water so they can charge more. I don't know how it works.
Yeah. You soon work out where you can buy your cheaper. You soon find out where the locals go to get water or to get your vegetables, or which markets work out cheaper which days and everything. The only other experience I've had is where I ran out of gas. And although, you know, that wouldn't normally be
As
a
in
problem.
gas for cooking and heating water.
Yeah, because most houses here have your separate gas tank that.
Yep.
I mean, there's companies that are dedicated to daily supplying gas tanks.
Yeah, Seda Gas always comes around and...
Zeta Gas,
Yep.
Sony Gas.
Yep.
They all have their jingles. You can't miss them. You've probably overheard them on previous podcasts, blasting through the neighborhoods. But I've been caught without gas, and that was a little bit of a disaster because I couldn't go and sell coffee that day. I just couldn't prepare my coffee, so I had a day off. But I mean, it's not that it's expensive. It's just that you need there's only certain office hours that they supply gas. And although it's every day, when you want to be out selling your coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning and they don't turn up till 9, or they told me they'll be there at 7, so I was ready to go. My point is, you need to test your system, because I wasn't ready to go out. I wasn't ready not to have water for a couple of days. I went to my mother-in-law's house, and I found out she never had water either, but I actually took some of my washing to go wash at her house, and she never had it. She never had water. I mean, she's like 40 minutes out of the city, and they never had water either. I thought maybe there'd be a separate water supply or something. That was interesting. So I had to wash my shirt and my jeans by hand. Well, I mean, I didn't, but they got washed by hand. It was interesting because
by hand without water. How do you wash something by hand?
Oh no.
Water?
Okay. This is the interesting thing. There was one tap in Zapopan down at the market, so we went down and got a bucket of water. And I had to carry me. It was 5 blocks. And a full bucket of water. I mean, that was maybe 20 liters. It was nearly as big as a garrafon of water. I should have taken 2 buckets to even myself out, but I only had 1 bucket. And we bucketed water back to the house, and I thought, man, is this how Africa does it?
Yeah, except they have to walk 5 miles instead of 5 blocks.
It felt like 5 miles. It was rough, and the water splashing, so I got my shoes wet, and I was like, this sucks. It was. I mean, I guess it was a cool experience because you really value water.
Yeah.
But I forgot the value of water, and I thought that's kind of where we wanted to open with, because with the economic situation of the world and governments the way they are, services mainly being set up by government infrastructure, it's like, can we really rely on these services continuing? Most of us are pretty complacent and we don't think about it. Even in the situation that we're in, you don't think about it. But, all it takes is a long weekend and, some local construction, and all of a sudden you experience it firsthand and you realize, what, I had a couple extra buckets of water. Maybe I should keep some extra water around the house. It doesn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
Would have saved me a 5-block walk with 20 liters of water by my side. It was interesting. That was my weekend.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, it gives you kind of this perspective on what's going to happen in, say, a city like Los Angeles if something shuts down, or Sydney. What if something happens? What if people can't get water? And that is something that's happening right now in California. They have a water shortage. And it's kind of messed up because I believe the way it's structured, of course, it's a public water company. The price of water remains relatively stable, but they put some kind of restrictions on so people can't use so much water. But the big companies get the exemptions. So the people who are actually using the water, like industry, are still using the same amount of water as they were previously. Of
course they are.
Yeah, because they get this government-granted privilege. And, it doesn't get better. What a surprise. But if they had a simple price mechanism for water, of course, water would start to get exponentially more expensive, and that would act as a way, it acts as an incentive for people to find alternatives for using so much water.
I noticed on my Facebook feed there was an article that I never clicked on it because it wasn't really that interesting, but the catch line was 15 years and the whole world is going to experience water shortage.
Yeah, I find that hard to believe. I mean, people have been working on desalinization plants for many years now. I believe it's still somewhat inefficient, but I'm sure it's possible. I mean, 70% of the world's surface is covered by water. I don't think we have much to worry about. It's just we need to wait for some innovation on that front.
So you think maybe they're trying to create some kind of fear or threat or some kind of negative publicity about water and trying to create this early urge for I know
They're trying to make you store gallons and gallons of water in your basement.
Well, I'm going to store at
Buckets
least a
and
bucket.
buckets.
I'm going to store at least one bucket from now on. That's my new plan. But going out to Chapala just yesterday, I noticed that the water does look pretty low. I mean, I've heard people talk about how there's a town not far from Chapala and they're trying to divert the water. Like they're trying to divert the water around the town so that it can go into the lake rather than go just down the river into the ocean.
Right.
But
so Lake Chapala is a source of water for Guadalajara, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure how much water's there, but I mean, it's a huge lake. And
yeah, it's big. It's like, this lake is like 5 times the size of Guadalajara. Guadalajara is not a high city, and it's a city of about 5 million people. So yeah, it's a pretty big lake.
It's a big lake. But it's looking low because you can see where the walls were built to hold the water. And there's actually where you had the ramp to lower your boats into it. It's actually a ramp into a new car park that's down on the lower side of the water.
Oh, okay, that's weird.
I took a few photos, so I'll send you one so you can show these guys. But it caught me by surprise because I overheard that they're trying to divert water into the lake because we're trying to lift the water that we have. I mean, there's a lot of water there, but still, I mean, we should be looking at conserving our water. But there's some political issue of the nearby town that doesn't want to lose their water, or they're worried at losing all their water to divert into the lake when most of their water's been wasted anyway. So I don't know, just interesting that that we are being fed this information saying that we're going to run out of water when of course technology to clean the water or the technology to utilize it better is there, but there's always political issues or political points of view. I don't know, what do you call that? Invested interests in...
Yeah, vested interests, yeah. People are using their power to fuck everybody else over, I guess. Is it? Or maybe not even deliberately, but it just sets up this structure which inhibits everybody getting what maybe they deserve or what they should be able to get.
But I mean, even we go back to Pachakia, in our case of where we had water from the river, and there seems to be like a lot of water there. I mean, I don't think they've ever had water shortages, but I mean, you can't drink that water straight out of the river.
It looks nice and clean, except for the bugs in it. You might have to filter it, but I don't know. Maybe it doesn't look like it's contaminated.
No, everyone just boils the water and uses it as is.
Right.
But I mean, it just occurred to me, that the day that I ran out of gas, like even if I wanted to boil the water from the tap, assuming that, because I know some people do cook with the tap water here. Like it is from the lake, like it's straight water. So I mean, you just assume you boil the water and it's fine. In a survival situation, that's what you do.
Yeah.
You'd boil the water and just hope for the best.
Well, I've still got my life straw.
You got one of those?
Yeah, just in case. I think I bought it. I don't know when I don't know if I bought it the first time I went to Colombia or the first time I came to Mexico, but I was like, yep, get one of those just in case. You never never know when you're going to be in the middle of nowhere. And like my first trip in Mexico, I came here to Guadalajara, to La Paz, and Mexico City, all metropolitan areas. So I don't know why I thought I would need a live straw. But
there's some water.
Doesn't hurt to have it.
There's some water in Mexico City that I didn't even know I drink with that straw. But what does it look like? Is it?
It looks like a cylinder, a blue cylinder. It's about 10, 12 centimeters long, and you just submerge one end in the water and drink away.
Well, I can see that if there was no water, I can see that as a good investment.
Yeah,
that'll increase in value pretty quick.
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you might have to give a couple of those.
Yeah, just in case.
I should. No, I will get a couple of those.
You can just imagine all people in California, all people in Los Angeles head down to Venice Beach and they're all like sucking up the ocean.
Look at those fools.
Get in there. Daily hydration.
They look thirsty. I don't know, man. Water. It seems so basic. You just don't think about it. But I mean, going back to the idea of bugging out, it's like one of the most essential things we should be thinking about. I don't think we got an issue here with water. I mean, like you said, Lake Chapala is massive. It seems like even if the governments here in Mexico fell over, like that water's going to come through. People will find a tap. Like there'd be a mob looking for the pipe and just to open that up and just give water to everybody. And I don't think water's that expensive here either.
No.
Like the water, the price of like tapped house water, it's like next to nothing. I think in comparison to what you pay for water.
We must pay like $20 a month here for our water bill.
But
Something like maybe $30.
I mean, even when I was living in Sydney, I didn't drink the tap water. I think I'd probably feel safer drinking the tap water here.
Really?
Well, no, actually, no. Actually, talking with Itzel about the water in
El Salto.
El Salto,
Yeah.
and how they messed up.
Is a town about an hour away from Guadalajara, and it's kind of famous for how polluted it is. There's a lot of industry there, and it's called El Salto, which means like the jump or the fall, because there are a lot of waterfalls there, or one in particular. But yeah, not full of nasty foam and stuff apparently.
I was shocked when she was explaining how bad that place is. Like how it's just got a smell of toxic or just dead. I don't know. I'm interested in going to have a look though. I mean, I'll go for a trip out there and check it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just interested in how bad it really is. But then, like I was saying, I wouldn't drink the water in Sydney either. Like sometimes it's just got that overpowering smell of chemical or something. Or you can just see it as it goes into your cup, it just bubbles up and it's got like that misty sort of the white cloud color.
Wow. And then about 10 years ago, they had that scare for Guardia or something. There was like people in Sydney just couldn't drink the water at all, or they had to boil it for 5 solid minutes to make sure it was all right. Some kind of bacteria.
Well, they say Sydney's like the worst spot to have a city because of the water shortage.
Right.
Like there's all these people in Sydney, in this originally Botany Bay of Sydney, which is now the airport, and it's like there's no water, and there's always like well, I don't know, they even have like fines now if you're wasting water. Isn't that you can't wash your car on the street?
Oh, okay. Yeah, watering your lawn on the wrong day or whatever.
Things like that, just to try and save water.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, it's just one of those things. Water. It's like basic 101. But
I think we've talked about this before. You know, when the CEO of Nestle came out and said water is not a right.
Yeah, we mentioned it in the bug out episode.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because I tend to agree water isn't a right, and this kind of demonstrates it, because if it is a right, that means it more or less should be unlimited, but it's a limited resource. You can't have a right to a limited resource. You can't have a right to make someone purify or filter water for you. That's at least by my definition of a right, like an exclusive claim. That's impossible. That's not what a right is.
When we first spoke about it, I was of the idea that, of course, like everyone should have the right to have water.
I agree. Everyone should have access to water, but I don't think everyone has a right to water.
Yeah, like the water in my cup's my water. If you drink all your water and you're thirsty, well, you have to go get your own water.
Yeah.
You can't touch my water. But, I mean, in the case of having the right access to water, of course. But who's going to provide that service for free?
Yeah, exactly. Nobody should be forced to work for free. That's called slavery.
And didn't we get rid of that a while back?
Officially.
Yeah, no, that frustrates me, that topic, because I think it's just we're not looking after our human family the way we should be. And you know, we joke about, hey, you know, I didn't have water to flush my toilet, but there's people that don't have water full stop, and they have to go a lot longer than a couple of days. So I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what that's like, because just the just the feeling that I was getting of, I got to deal with not having water, and I'm looking at it's stupid, but I'm looking at my 10 liters left in my fresh drinking water, and thinking, once I drink that, then what happens? Like, there's nothing open, and I'm thinking long weekend. Today's Saturday. Like, is there anything even open? And then I got Sunday to get through. I try to drink at least 2 liters a day. I know that's a bit under what you normally drink, but it's a minimum.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't have enough water to get through. And then of course Joanna's brushing her teeth and splashing water around like I'm going to work, not my problem. It's funny. He's like, I felt like Homer Simpson when he goes crazy. I was like, I'm looking at my water, like, after that water, there's no more water left, and I may never have water ever again. No, it wasn't that extreme, but I could feel that kind of desperation.
Yeah.
Like just that little bit coming in, like, I don't want to go for another bucket of water. And even if I do, I need to boil it or something to drink it, like, full. Like, I know water's going to come back. Like, it was only a construction thing they were doing, but that doesn't matter. Like, I almost felt like people when they get trapped inside a car, or when they face like claustrophobia.
Yeah.
And they have this anxiety, this energy build up in themselves when they're like, I'm going to die. Like, I could feel a little bit of that, or at least have the empathy to understand people that have that kind of desperation. Which is a little bit scary because that started my whole day off, and then I'm waiting for the bus to come over here. It's like everything was just weekend. It's like so slow. It's like not a good mindset to be in. Yeah, when you got a city of like 4 million, 6 million, 8, 20 million, 40 million people, and all of a sudden, a certain percentage are going to be more subject to feeling this desperation. Then you can have a lot of crazy people out there, killing for water. Like, you could have these zombie apocalypse pretty much over one long weekend. Like, I'm a pretty stable guy, but I could understand that. I could understand those feelings coming in.
Yeah.
As I was waiting for the bus.
Yeah.
Feeling thirsty. The hot sun beating down on me.
Well, and yeah, that's a problem too. I think this is more of a problem in places like Australia, where there's no distribution system for water outside the government system, because you have this one company, a public company. How good governments are at managing things, and if they shut down, then what are you going to do? Go to 7-Eleven and buy out the entire stock of 300ml bottles?
You'd want to.
Like, you want to be the plan?
You want to be the first one there.
Yeah.
And if you're not, you want to know how to fight, because you're going to be taken out on the way home. That guy's got fresh water.
Yeah.
I mean, how long do you think you'd last?
Me, personally, like without water, or what do you mean? Like,
no,
fighting my way out like a gladiator?
I'm just putting the rhetorical question out. Like, if you go a week without water, and although, you could go a week without water, I think.
No, I think, I guess it's possible, but physiologically, normally about 48 hours is the average that a person can survive without drinking water.
See, most houses here in Mexico have their own storage of water, like whether it's under their house or whether it's on top of their house. Like, most people have their own well type system. But in Australia, there's no system. I know where I grew up, there's bore water, and you have a Spears Point, and you can pull your own water. Although as kids, I know we used to drink it a little bit. It tasted funny.
Sometimes it's okay. You have to get it tested, and sometimes it has like a lot of good minerals and stuff in it, apparently. But a lot of the time, you're not supposed to drink that.
Well, it's naturally filtered. I mean, usually where we were living was all in the sand bed.
Ah, right.
Yeah,
okay.
So I mean, and even then, if you had to drink it, you'd pretty boil it, and you'd make it your 48 hours. But it's just a concern knowing that a lot of people would go crazy for water. Like, you'd have to fight off these zombies that were like water zombies, just people that were dehydrated, and I guess they'd be weak. They wouldn't be hard to fight.
Yeah. Meanwhile, here's you with your 10 garrafones of water, fully charged or already.
You'd be locking your doors and just hold out, just wait. But I mean, you don't have a cycle in here?
Sorry, a cycle?
Like a cycle of Garrafon, like you don't have a spare water bottle?
No, like we normally keep 3 at a time, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, you know,
We don't
that's
have a backup.
that's 60 litres of water.
Yeah. It's
And
enough to last about a week, maybe 5 days. When it's a house full of 7 people.
and you guys aren't bugging out. That's just your normal day-to-day system.
Yeah.
So yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. I mean, in comparison to, first world, just open the tap.
Watch us again at the Paradise Paradox. Watch us on YouTube, like us on Facebook. Watch us on YouTube, like us on Facebook. Tweet us on Twitter, and listen to us on iTunes or Pocket Casts.
Welcome back. So here I've got a flashlight. No, it's not a flashlight. This is a Life Straw, and I just bought this at a camping goods store in Australia. It cost me $30. The brand is actually called Life Straw, lifestraw.com.au. And this thing, apparently it works by polyurethane resin microfiltration. I don't know what that means exactly. Some sort of plastic that that creates a resin and then can clean out your water. And it removes bacteria, cysts, and suspended particles from fresh water. So it makes it apparently good enough to make just about any water drinkable, even if it looks contaminated and dirty and stuff. And it can filter up to 1,000 or more than 1,000 liters of water.
So you can take this down to your beach and start drinking the water straight out of the waves.
I wonder if it would work like that, considering the high salt content of the water, if it would get clogged or not. I'm not sure if it's intended to be used in salt water, but it would work to some extent.
I mean, let's face it, you're using this because you got no water. So you'd be better off using this compared to
drinking salt water.
Yeah.
Yes. You definitely would be, yeah.
I'm a little bit surprised you actually have one, and then I'm surprised that I don't have one. Like it just seems like something so basic that you'd want to have.
Yeah.
Considering you're at this level of thinking, like I'm going to need water. It's so basic. People don't think about it.
Like think about the reason I bought it. I was concerned about that I don't know what I was thinking when I left Australia. Like Mexico is going to be this wasteland where
you bought
water
this
is impossible to attain. So I don't know what I was. I guess I was just thinking, it never hurts to have one.
Well, I mean, this is before you came to Mexico at all.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. You got no idea what you're walking into.
Yeah.
I mean, the Australian education system does not tell you anything about Mexico.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And I also know that you're prepared to go for this huge, big, Latin American tour.
Yeah. Well, I think I bought this before the first time I came to Mexico. So I was only coming for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But I guess that's part of it too, because I suppose I must have factored that in and thought, well, if I'm going to be traveling around Latin America in the future, it might come in handy.
It seems like a cool thing to have.
Venezuela or something. Honduras.
Well, I mean, we mentioned technology.
In the Amazon, yeah.
About like technology filtering water. If you can get that technology for $30 in a little straw,
yeah.
Then what's everyone talking about? Like running out of water, this water shortage.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, because like I said, I don't know how well it would work in salt water. Maybe if you drank salt water through it would still come through salty. I'm not sure. But that's another thing. I don't know much about desalination, but I think that's definitely something that's going to be explored over the next few years.
Well, I know the ones that I know of or heard about are like in the Middle East. Like I know that they've set them up, and there's other types of water filtration systems that they actually try and use like the vegetation in the area. or around these facilities, they're noticing that the humidity that the plant's giving off is actually giving water to the vegetation around the area.
Okay.
And they're predicting that within 10 and 20 years you're going to have like just these lush areas of green around these plants. So I don't know. Maybe we can turn the desert green again.
Yeah. Well, I read a story about that. Not about that case, but it was kind of it started out as a fictional story about a man who lives in the desert, and he started planting seeds, and some of them grew, and over his lifetime he actually created a full forest. And I thought, okay, well, that's just I think I read it first represented as a true story, and I thought, okay, that might be true, probably not true. I did some more research. Actually, there's been many cases of people doing this, creating entire forests. Well, at least 2 or 3 cases, I should say, not scores, but enough to show a proof of concept for sure. Like two or three cases where these guys started planting things in the desert, and over 50 years, they had a forest, a rainforest. They terraformed this whole area.
It doesn't seem like it's that hard to do.
If you have 50 years, yeah.
I mean, 50 years is like...
It's an investment.
That's not a really long period of time. When you consider there's a lot of countries that have huge desert areas, and although some of it's tourist based for the country, like Australia, the whole middle is like desert. I'm sure that at some point there might have been like an internal sea or something, like like they talk about, like Lake Eyre and all that.
Right. Yeah.
But if they were able to terraform, like how much would you have to invest into terraforming Australia to make the whole thing like a big vegetable island for it to be worthwhile? I don't know.
Well, it almost seems like it's going to be worthwhile regardless of the cost, but I guess there must be some kind of limit. But you have to imagine, this guy spent 50 years to do it. Say, he's living in a third world country, so his equivalent salary would be like $10,000 a year. But in Australia, you'd have to pay someone at least $30,000 a year to do that. So $30,000 times 50 years, that's $1.5 million. Is that right? That's right. $1.5 million.
I think you could do it for less though, because from my basic knowledge of planting plants, I've got like maybe, I'm going to say 15 pineapples at the front of my house now.
All right, so you're on your way to making a pineapple forest.
See, well, what I thought was, and people laughed at me originally, as they do with crazy people, but I thought, if I'm going to buy a block of land in Mexico, I might not have the capital to invest in building something straight away. So the least I can do is plant pineapples to mark out my block of land.
Yep.
And at least then I know exactly where my block of land is, and I'm going to have these excess pineapples. So I've started to cultivate pineapples, and I've got about 15 now, with about 20 that are dry and ready to go in. I'm running out of pots. But what you notice is the pineapple, like I've got one, my mother-in-law has one, and the pineapple's probably as big as my fist right now.
Yeah.
But underneath it, there's at least another 5 pineapples that I'm sure you can just snap off, and they'll grow into pineapples as well. So, even with seeds, once you learn the system of the plants, you can like multiply plants so quick.
Yeah. Well, I read a post on Tumblr the other day, and it listed like 10 or 20 plants that basically grow themselves, and you don't need seeds. Like using the parts of potatoes that have a lot of eyes on them, sweet potatoes, and pineapples, of course. There's a whole bunch of
celery.
Yeah.
You cut it off, replant it, it grows again.
Yep. Or you buy spinach from the market, and it comes with the roots still on there. It's ready to go.
Yep. So you need to get yourself a source of fresh water. and start planting like superfoods, sweet potatoes and celeries and pineapples and whatever. But makes me think about the guys in the US that are in those zones where they're fracking. Fracking is the process where you're extracting oil from I think like, you know, oily mud type. I don't know. It's not like it's not your standard.
Like out of shale, I think.
Yeah.
So like some sort of thin rock that somehow traps gas in it.
I'm not sure of the actual process, but for what I've heard, they bore these big holes or tunnels down into this like this layer of rock, and they blast water with these types of let's say unique chemicals that are there to separate the oil from the rock or the mud or whatever. Unfortunately, the pressure that they do this, it it causes all kinds of outcomes like earthquakes. It ruins the water table. And these chemicals, once they're in, they're not going to leave by themselves. So from the few cases that I've come across, I mean, of course, you're not going to see this on your mass media television set, but those cases where towns actually had their water contaminated, and there was hours where people were drinking, consuming, cooking with, or showering with these waters that had some kind of acid base, like toxic water. And the news just didn't get out to the people. I mean, there's people that are getting quite sick, and irrespective of that, like their water is now screwed up for as long as it's going to be until someone's going to clean it. And then the same companies that are doing this are going bankrupt. I mean, anyone notice the price of oil? So you got these companies that are destroying the land, destroying the water.
Right.
People,
so you're saying the price, because the price of oil has gone down recently, that means these companies who had a business model depending on the oil being like $100 a barrel, they're no longer sustainable, and now they've gone out of business.
Yeah, so now they're out of business. Who's going to sue? Who are you going to sue to get your water fixed? Even if, let's say, it is fixable. Because, I mean, I don't know how deep that is and what chemicals, and, you can't, the damage is too extensive to, just to go in and send in a mop and clean that up. It's like, it's almost worse than having like a oil spillage at sea, because at least that at some level is containable, even though, that's debatable as well. But it's like when you're talking about subterranean water streams that are contaminated, I mean, we don't even know where that water comes from or goes to the full extent of the water. Yeah. So that's just sad. That's sad for the people that are trapped in those areas, because, I mean, people can't just... The economic situation at the moment for most people isn't going to be at the level where you can just pick up and move away, especially if you've got family, children at schools, you're part of the community, your job, your business, and you're left with what? You're left in a town that's going to be short on water. That's for sure. Don't want to be in that situation. I don't know. It's a little bit, they're kind of a little bit sad. It's really sad. I mean, it just kind of hit me with how bad that actually is. I don't think I realised how bad that was until just right now.
I have to wonder if there's a safer way to do fracking, because it sounds like it, for the meantime, while the world is so dependent on fossil fuels, it sounds like it might be necessary.
Well, that's just because we are dependent. I mean, there's technology that can free us from that as well.
Not really. This is a thing, because with oil, I mean, you think, okay, oil, it runs our cars. Now we have electric cars. Problem solved. But it's not that simple.
No, not at all.
Because just about everything we use comes from oil, like plastics and all kinds of medicine come from oil.
Well, rubbers, paint, everything with paint. Like if you talk just the car, it's like, yeah, sure, we're going to put a different fuel in it. But I mean, the dash, the wheel, the seats, the foam, the rubber wheels, the tires, and then the paints and all the compounds and resins that go into building that. And then, you can think about like the electric system and all that. We're just talking at a different level of the process.
Yeah. So that's That's a thing. That's a very complex problem.
That's something to think about.
Yeah. So something else you brought up was fluoridation, like in the tap water.
Yeah, but I was going to ask you, like, why don't you? I mean, of course you don't, but why wouldn't you drink the water here, out of the tap? It's like, what is it in mind that you think about? Like just the germs, or
No,
what?
it's not just the germs. I mean, the germs are one thing, but I figure, well, I have, a reasonable immune system. So maybe if I started drinking the water, I might get sick for a little while and then I'd be okay. But my main concern wouldn't be that, but the heavy metals. And I haven't investigated to see how good the filters are. I mean, every house has some kind of filter on it, but I don't know if it would be good enough to remove heavy metals or not. So, what if there's mercury or lead in there? It's tiny little particles and that's building up in your system. That could be a problem. But I really don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of a trust with the regulatory system here in Mexico, and just knowing that you can. I mean, industries are set up in Mexico, obviously setting up in Mexico, knowing that they're going to maximize. I mean, that's business. They're going to maximize profits as much as they can, and if they can put a $5 filter on rather than a $10 filter, they're going to do it. And if that means we're going to start consuming, some percentage of heavy metals in our water, in our cooking, then that's probably not something they're going to be concerned about. I mean, it's only Mexican people. Who cares about those guys?
I don't know. I mean, that's in some ways, of course, the market is self-regulating because under common law, of course, you can always sue someone for a tort if they've provided you a service which has a reasonable expectation of quality and it hasn't lived up to that expectation. Then they may be liable. Of course, the water company that provides the tap water is a public company. It's called potable water, which it isn't. It's not drinkable water, really. So that's they've got problems there from the very first step.
Marketing.
Yeah,
You
great
never trust
marketing.
those guys, can you? They're always trying to sell you something.
but this is the thing, because it's a government. Of course, they're going to have some kind of exemption. So it's not like I don't think I would be able to sue Agua Potable to say, well, your water isn't actually drinkable like you claimed it was. I don't think I would have any hope at all if I'd sustained some damages from that. I don't think I'd have any.
No, I don't think you would either. But I don't think that'd be your first issue.
Why is that?
Because I mean, I don't know. Maybe I've watched too many narco movies.
Yeah.
You just see how the government is so intertwined with like just drug-related gangs or mafia, and you just think it'd be easier just to have this Kurt disappear, like he just didn't turn up to court. I don't know what happened. It's like,
Yeah.
I was there, I had my team, he didn't turn up. Oh well. And the judge, of course, he got his paycheck for the day, so boom, whatever.
Yeah.
And life moves on. I mean, the Mexican way of life is just so survival. I just don't think people have time to sue people. Like, it's not something you really hear about in Mexico too much.
No, I've never heard of anything like that. I guess it must happen. It's not like the United States where you see ads for lawyers on the television and they say, have you been injured by some faulty medicine, or did someone run over your leg, or whatever they say? I don't see those kind of ads here for lawyers.
I don't think I've ever seen any of those kind of ads. Other than portrayed in movies. Like, you kind of see them being ripped off by other.
Yeah.
I've seen examples of them, but
Do you go to bed at night and wake up in the morning? Oh no, that's another thing.
It's probably a little bit of it. It's probably a little bit like the medication commercials.
Exactly,
I mean, those I have seen because they're just funny.
Yeah, because they rattle off all of those potential problems that you could have with the medicine. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, with the here in Mexico, I don't drink the tap water. In Australia, yeah, I did. I mean, I did drink the tap water, even though I know it's got fluoride in it. And I haven't seen any significant evidence to demonstrate that fluoride is actually good for you in terms of their medical claims about preventing dental caries. If you look at a list of countries by the amount of dental caries per, I think it's normally per 100,000 people per year, something like that, you can see countries like, let's see, Germany, the Netherlands, I believe Ireland doesn't have fluoridation. So a lot of these Western European countries don't have fluoridation, and the level of dental caries is comparable to Australia or the United States or parts of Britain that are fluoridated. I can't tell the difference, and when people claim that it actually prevents dental caries, well, it's like, as far as I can tell, the evidence isn't there, and of course it actually causes dental problems. It causes fluorosis, like the whitening of the teeth and the possibility that it makes them more brittle.
Yeah, well, I did notice there are movements in Australia to remove the fluorination of water. I know in like northern Queensland, there's been a few local governments that actually had that turned back, where they removed that process.
Yeah, because they only introduced it recently. About five years ago, I think they started fluoridating.
Okay, no, well, that's pretty why. I mean, my experience of not drinking the water in Australia was only recent, like maybe in the last couple of years, and that was just from the information that was coming through, just online and channels like
Infowars
with Alex Jones. I mean, it's hard not to fall down the rabbit hole without coming across, all the topics. I mean, you realize that they're all kind of connected. It's like, well, you know what? Maybe when you start asking the questions, maybe I don't need to be drinking fluoride. It's like, it doesn't, it seems like a lot of people got away with not drinking it before. I don't know why we need to start drinking it now. And I think it's nearly all of the EU have banned it. Like, I think it's pretty common through Europe. It's like,
really?
they don't have fluoride. I think the majority of Europe don't have fluoride in their water.
Okay.
But from just touching on what Alex Jones was saying about actually fluoride being in the water, which is where I saw these units originally, is that the fluoride that we're putting in the water isn't actually, it isn't actually like the fluoride that we're supposed to be putting in the water, and it's more like some kind of toxic waste that's produced through industry that has a similar molecular structure.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so in the United States, the fluoride is normally a byproduct, or some would say a waste product, of aluminium smelting. In Australia, it's normally a byproduct or waste product of fertilizer companies. So they make the fertilizer, and this type of fluoride is the runoff. In a lot of places in Australia, they put in fluoric acid. So it's not, you don't actually drink the fluoric acid, because as soon as it comes into water, it starts breaking down into other chemicals. And so who really knows what kind of chemicals you're drinking? And it's a totally weird thing, because people say, fluoride is great. Okay, but which fluoride? Because this is like basic chemistry. Like if you have, for example, sodium chloride, very good for you, healthy in small amounts, tastes great on a steak, it's table salt. But if you have sodium, well, that's a completely different thing. If you have a molecule of sodium, put it into water, it's going to explode. If you have chlorine on its own, it's actually chlorine gas. It's highly poisonous. So you can't just say, chloride is good. Well, you need to start making some kind of distinction here. You can't just chuck whatever fluoride you like in the water and say that's cool.
Dude, how long have you known this stuff for? So where did you pull that from? And if you did know it, how could you? I have to call home and Dad, my brother put a system in at the house to filter all that, because although sometimes you can't convince everybody that you can't just trust the government's putting the right shit in the water. Why are we even putting shit in the water in the first place? Just give us fresh water.
Yeah.
you're not going to convince everybody. So I know we just took the initiative and just started filtering all the water in the house. And I think
great.
most people have, because not everyone's going to understand it or care about it enough because, of course, the government looks after us, right?
Yeah, right.
I was like, I've seen these
It's called
organizations.
Stockholm syndrome.
I know who works in these places. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't trust them full stop. It's like, okay, now I don't want to be attacking people, but it's like,
Here we go.
it's not the most competitive industry.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
That's all I need to say.
Yeah, if you don't have the option, like if McDonald's had some sort of monopoly on restaurants in your town, like do you think somehow they have the incentive of providing the best quality food? They know you can't go anywhere else. What are they going to do? Are they going to make it as best as the best product they possibly can, or maybe not the greatest?
Yeah. No. They're going to give you the cheapest burger they can give you and give it at a competitive price.
Yeah, with no competition.
Well, yeah, I didn't eat burgers anymore. That was last week.
Everything changed. Turn over a new leaf.
But just water in general, it's such an interesting product. Like it's such an interesting thing because it's like, you see it, it's described as like the essence of life.
Yeah.
In newer studies, it talks about having like water's got its own intelligence. It's got its own memory. I mean, I'm jumping towards like the studies by the Japanese scientist, the guy who did the water crystal studies.
I don't know. If I say his name,
Moto,
I'm just going to throw out a random
Exactly.
Japanese name. It's Matsumoto or something. I don't know.
It'll be in the link because it's an interesting study. But
Yeah.
I mean, what he's able to show is that the water actually has some kind of interaction with intention or consciousness or some kind of water has its own awareness. And in future studies of his work, it shows that water has some kind of memory of its own past, and that this is going on philosophy. We were like, I'll save it, because I don't want to talk too much about water, but the fact that water is like the essence of life.
We've been talking about water for an hour now. Now you want to stop?
Yeah, no, I mean, because I'm thinking of Bruce Lee, and he's like, be water.
Be water,
and
my
he's like,
friend.
I'm not sure if that's got anything to do with this.
Okay.
I'm not sure if being water has got anything to do with how clean the water
Well,
is.
we already are. But
Yeah. I mean, like, let's say the human body's like, the high percentage, so maybe 70% water. I think it's lower than that, or is it? 70% water,
70.
20% carbon, and then 10% miscellaneous. I don't know. I'll probably pull that from a movie.
10% pure magic.
Magic.
Well, yeah, and I mentioned that in a previous episode. I mentioned how Luc Montagnier, previous Nobel Prize laureate, was doing some experiments which seemed to indicate that water does have a kind of memory in the form of the signature. It was some kind of radio wave that was emitted from the water after it was exposed to water that had DNA in it. You could still detect the signature of the DNA in this water that didn't have any DNA in it, which indicates that there's some kind of truth to the fact that water has memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I can't explain any better than that. But I mean, there's obviously room for investigation.
Yeah.
And there isn't as much knowledge about water, other than the fact that it is like the purest form of life. And of course, for life you need water. Everything's dependent upon it. So
on Earth we do. Who knows what they do on Venus? Anyway, the other thing.
no, I mean you're
That
right.
shut you up.
Yeah, no, it did, because my brain's just going. Venus?
Yeah. Imagine some kind of gaseous hydrogen-based life forms. Anyway, I was going to bring up this neti pot because a neti pot is it's a device. Yogis have used it for years to clean out their nostrils. So they get this pot. It looks like a teapot. Fill it through full of water and apply it to the nostril. And so the water comes into one nostril and it goes out the other. It's good for congestion. Apparently, it's also good for allergies. Helps prevent explosive allergic reactions. The thing is, in the United States, there's been a few cases recently of people using a neti pot with tap water, and unfortunately, they've contracted a brain-eating amoeba. So this kind of this small organism gets into their brain and starts eating away, and it's kind of the start of many medical problems. So the thing is, if you're going to use a neti pot, use distilled water.
Yeah, I was fascinated with why you would even want to do that. But the last thing you'd expect would be that an algae grows behind your nose and moves into your brain and starts eating you inside out. But yogis do this?
Yeah, it's a yoga exercise. Like the first time I read about it was in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. No, I don't think it mentions a neti pot, but it mentions doing this to clean out your nostrils every day. Actually, the other exercise, which is even weirder, it mentions getting a piece of cloth and snorting it up your nose so you can pull it out your mouth, and then you're like polishing your nostril from the inside.
Yeah, nostril polish.
Yeah, good old nostril polish. Good for the whole family. Yeah, cool.
Cool. Well, I mean, that's me done. Drink clean water.
Yeah, good. Yeah, to drink clean water, stay safe, go for a swim, buy a life straw. Why not?
Get a life straw.
In case. You never know when it might come in handy. All right, my name's Kurt Robinson.
My name's Aaron Battle.
Look us up on Twitter. I'm at Trouble Bubble.
At BattleAZ.
And press like, press subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on iTunes and Pocket Casts, and leave us a comment if you got something cool to say about water, or you funky kids having your water raves and stuff like that. You can tell us about that. And have a good one.
It's the time of year.
Peace.
Press like on YouTube, press like on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and Pocket Casts. Follow us on Twitter at BattleAZ, at Trouble Bubble, and show your support at donate.theparadigmparadox.com.